enabling big data on RBC's hybrid multi-cloud platform. Now I know what you're thinking. Hybrid multi-cloud? Sounds like something out of the Marvel movie, right? But trust me, today's heroes don't wear capes, they migrate legacy systems. Joining us are two cloud champions who make the sky not just the limit, but the strategy. We have Vinh Tran, Vice President of Data and AI Platforms and RBC Fellow at RBC, and Navin Sridharan, Director of Cloud Customer Engineering at RBC. I would love to welcome both of you on stage, and over to you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
A louder round of applause, please. Thank you.
That super good.
All right, let's do it.
Awesome. So, good morning, everyone. I think we are into day 2 of Data and Analytics Summit. I hope you're all having a fantastic summit so far. I was just joking to Neha. It looks like this session is right after the 10:30 to 11:30, where most of the people are probably inside the booth, having some snacks, talking to people. But that said, we have a very interesting topic of discussion today, and that is really enabling big data on RBC's hybrid multi-cloud platform. So today's discussion is really laser-focused on sharing the overall vision, direction, and the approach taken by Vinh and team. Of course, I was part of his team before, just so you guys know. And to achieve big data enablement on hybrid cloud platform, and the success we've had as a result of that enablement. And we'll perhaps have last 5 minutes for Q&A and from our audience. And here's what I'll say, okay? Based on my experience working with Vinh, he is one of those tough nut to crack. So be ready with your questions, and let's give him a little bit of a hard time later in the session. So without further ado, let's get started. Are you ready, Vinh?
Sure.
Perfect. So moving on to the first question. So you worked with RBC for 6 years now.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what RBC as a company is, and what are we striving to achieve?
Awesome. I think most people here know RBC. We're the largest bank in Canada. We're I think top 15 now globally around the world from a market cap perspective. One of the big things that we accomplished last year is really getting on. We were ranked number 3 in the Evident AI study. So what we've really done as an organization is we've really bet big on data and AI. We think that data is really key to our ability to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. We have 19 million plus clients. We've got 97,000 employees, so we're one of the biggest employers in Canada. But that data from the 19 million plus clients that we have really gives us an advantage over just about anybody else in Canada. So we have the most data. We have a team of brilliant data scientists and that can curate that data and drive insights from the data. And what we're going to talk about today is how our infrastructure helped us deliver that. Our infrastructure, our hybrid cloud infrastructure, has given us the scale, has given us the compute, has given us the capabilities to really drive meaningful insights from that data so that we can take advantage of it and use it to power our business. And powering our business and empowering our customers and driving meaningful insights. So that's who we are from an RBC perspective. Everybody knows us. I think the big thing for people that may have not been as close to RBC, over the course of the last 10 years, we've really evolved as an organization. 10 years ago, and that was before my time, I started here in 2019, but 10 years ago, we were a typical bank with a typical bank that we bought our technology. We weren't in the business of writing software, and I know that I remember when I started, one of the earliest comments to me was, "We're a bank. We're in the business of no Vinh. We're a bank. We're in the business of lending money, not in the business of writing software and running cloud." That's really changed over the last over the last 10 years. We've really driven a lot of engineering excellence, and our CIO prides ourselves as being a tech company with the bank side out front. So we've really made that transition because we think it is fundamental to our ability to serve our customers.
Amazing. And yeah, engineering excellence, speaking of which, I think we've had some tremendous transformation in the last few years, which you guys are going to hear more to in the upcoming questions. Moving to the next question. So great, you've spent like most of your years at RBC being in the cloud program and talking about strategy and vision and whatnot, but now within the cloud program, you've had like a tremendous success and to a point where we've had like 30 to 40% of the workloads move over to cloud in the last few years. Now, can you help shed some light on RBC's overall hybrid cloud strategy and how that kind of helped drive the overall development, experience and efficiency across the board?
Absolutely, absolutely. So you'll find with some of the larger banks globally, they're all adopting a hybrid cloud strategy. The hybrid for us means, obviously, we're leveraging public cloud. That's what everybody is very familiar with when people think cloud. But we're also building, and we've built a private cloud on-prem. And fundamental to that strategy is that we need to be able to run our business. We want to continue to be able to run our business on-prem if cloud were to not work out for us. If we needed, we've got to show regulators, we've got to show our shareholders, our stakeholders, our executives that we can use public cloud to drive efficiencies, to drive scale, to drive innovation. But at the end of the day, if we need to run our business and we have to go and it has to be on-prem and we don't have those cloud service providers available, then we can continue to run our business. Sure, we might not have the same scale and there might be some limitations, but that is our commitment to our business, our 160-year-old tradition, our history, that we need to be able to sustain that. So what we've done, similar to some of the other large banks, is we've invested heavily on-prem as well to bring capabilities, similar capabilities, maybe not the same, but similar capabilities to what we have in cloud. So whether it's Kubernetes, whether it's infrastructure as code, whether it's even open source, there's a lot of movement towards open source for us now. We're really investing in those capabilities on-prem so that we can use a consistent pattern to deploy things to public cloud. Everybody's fallen in love with infrastructure as code and Kubernetes and in the public cloud. We're bringing that on-prem. So we've written Terraform custom resource providers. We're doing all these things so that we can have a similar experience on-prem. For us, hybrid cloud doesn't mean I've got Azure and AWS and on-prem. It means I have one unified experience. So I'm going to onboard to a cloud, and then I'm going to be able to use services in Azure, AWS, and on-prem. So it's that cohesive experience and standardization of tools so that it reduces friction, it creates predictability for our app teams, it promotes reuse from a platform perspective for us. That's how we look at hybrid cloud. It's not just 3 different clouds, it's one cloud that allows you to deploy resources in 3 clouds. The other thing I'll mention is that we have found that 90% of application teams that are going to public cloud have some services they need to deploy on-prem as well. So if we can make that easy, if we can connect those capabilities, those services together, that allows us to better govern, create more efficiencies, and even secure the systems better.
Awesome. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but which is your favorite cloud?
Oh, I love all the clouds equally.
Right.
I've told you this.
All right.
For those that don't know, I'm now the VP of Data and AI Platforms, but for the first 6 years, I was leading the cloud engineering efforts at RBC. We took it from really, and we'll touch on this a little later as well, but we took it from really a discovery phase of our journey in cloud to really a phase where we were building mission-critical banking services and capabilities in cloud. So I've moved over to the data space now to do. There are a lot of parallels to what we need to do with a data platform as what we did with the cloud.
Absolutely, and I think this hybrid cloud strategy has really worked pretty well across the board, and that includes the scale, the innovation, the speed with which we want to deliver. But at the same time, if there are mission-critical applications that has certain data sensitivity, then yeah, there are times where we have to put them in private cloud as well. So I think from a hybrid cloud perspective, it's really worked out pretty well for us so far. So moving on to the next slide. You always talk about the 3 C's, the mantra to success. Could you shed a little bit light about what those 3 C's are and why it's important to you?
Yeah, I think it's, and again, it's very important for us on the data side, as important as it was on the cloud side. When we're if there are teams here that are involved in platform engineering, one of the tendencies when you're building a platform, you've got application teams that want to use this platform to enable their services and run fast and move fast. One of the things that platform teams tend to do is focus on features. They say, okay, I want to give you database as a service. I want to give you these. I want to give you Kubernetes. What we did was slightly different. So we worked backwards. So knowing that we're a regulated industry, knowing that we've got a lot of compliance and regulatory responsibilities, and knowing the experiences that I went through at other banks from an audit and a regulator OSFI perspective, we started backwards. We said, let's first focus on compliance. So what are those regulator guidelines that I need to achieve and be responsible for? So that's around architecture, cybersecurity, disaster recovery, resiliency, backup restore, these things. So I'm going to build a platform, and I'm going to take those guidelines, and then I'm going to develop controls to say, this is how I'm going to achieve those things. So every database I've got to answer that I deploy, same with the data platforms, any notebook, any data lake, and any data warehouse, anything I deploy, I need to be able to answer those questions for. So then we create those controls, and then we create some kind of evidence and dashboards to monitor. So that when regulators come in, they say, how are you satisfying your resiliency, your backup, and DR guidelines and commitments? We show them the controls, they're automated, and then we show them the evidence. Right? So we really started with compliance first, and my old SVP said one of the first things he said to me was, security and resiliency are things we're going to get fired for if we don't solve those. Make sure those things are good before we do add all the bells and whistles. So first we ensured compliance. Then we worried about cost. For those that are using cloud platforms, you'll know that you can quickly get runaway costs. And if you're doing platform engineering, then you're building a platform for app teams to use, and you know that if their costs start running away from them, you're going to be held responsible. So our job with building the platform, we need to focus on cost as well. We need to make sure that budgets are set for each team. They're looking at their budgets. They're seeing what that utilization is. And we also have measures in place to detect when it's not well managed, well utilized, so that we can downsize or we can resize their deployments. So we looked at compliance, we looked at cost, and then we can start talking about convenience. That's the features, that's the self-serve, that's the automation. That's all the things that generally platform engineers start with first. Once you have your compliance and your cost managed, then start thinking about how you can rapidly deploy and add features and all those bells and whistles. So that's really the mindset we go through from a platform engineering perspective to ensure that our value as a platform is to allow app teams to do things, use public cloud and use private cloud in a compliant, secure, and resilient way. Right? So that's really where I think platform engineers need to focus.
Awesome. And I think that perfectly fits with the 3C definition. People can take this away and then maybe permeate this across your organization as well. And I think there was a mention by CTO of Hitachi, for people who were here before earlier, as well, about cost being one of the big constraints whenever some of these projects will have to kick off, and what's the business value with driving off of that particular initiative, and what's the overall ROI that we basically appreciate and realize, right? So it's definitely one of the important consideration, in my opinion, overall. So moving on to next. Overall, Bruce Ross, our TNO group head, he always keeps telling us hey, you know what? We're just a big tech with a bank sign in the front door, right? So with that and keeping that in mind, would you be able to help walk us through the journey of overall RBC's transformation in cloud and data space in general? And what's the real North Star that we're really trying to move towards?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I'll go back 6 years, and I apologize, the slide's probably very small and difficult to read, but we've gone through 3 discrete phases. The first one back in 2019, 2020 was really a discovery. How do we use cloud? Like we had some teams using it for maybe scale, maybe using it for some specific use cases like burst compute and grid compute patterns. That was really a discovery phase. And we didn't have a lot of governance and a lot of controls. It was let's try this. Once we got through that first, that's the gray phase, that's the dark phase. Then we get into the blue phase, which is really the transformation. And that was really a fun, 3, 4-ish years for us where we started promoting cloud principles, cloud paradigms, infrastructure as code, idempotency, immutability. We showed teams how they could easily access it. We built controls around it and governance so that we could ensure we were meeting our regulatory requirements. And then we started making it generally available. So we brought it to the masses, and everybody could start using our Azure, AWS, and on-prem clouds. So we had a lot of success in that phase, and it really went mainstream. It changed the way developers built their systems. It changed the way that they trained, they architected things, what the things they learned. It was really transformative for us. So then I think at the latter end of that phase, we actually built some very critical systems. I'm sure there's some people from RBC Clear here, which is our US cash bank. We built that in 11 months in the cloud.
8 months.
8 months.
Yes, that was
Navin,
MVP.
Navin was part of that amazing work. So that really showed the bank that cloud was legit. It was here to stay. That there was tremendous value. We're heading into the next part of this journey where we're taking these clouds and we're bringing them together. So we've got a Azure and AWS and on-prem cloud. We're creating that hybrid user experience. We're stitching everything together. We're really working on that user experience for our developers so that we can scale this. All those phases, and one of the important things that we're starting to see out of that third phase is we're building a lot of confidence. We're building this engineering culture that has transformed from a buy it culture to a build it culture. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to write every line of code, but we are integrating open source. We're integrating different systems, and we have that confidence, and we have that engineering culture now to do it. It's built confidence in our technologists, but it's built confidence in our leadership as well. If you looked years ago, I think the ideas of using open source and contributing to open source ourselves would be crazy. But we are now at that phase where we're looking and we're saying, if we have a bold ambition to be #1 bank overall, that we're globally, we've got to quadruple our output, our size, and can we continue to do that with the current licensing constraints and the current models we have? And if we have the engineering capabilities and we've got that culture, maybe this is something that we can take on ourselves. Just like the cloud service providers have made a killing by just offering us open source capabilities and managing it for us with engineering excellence. So how do we adopt some of those capabilities and that culture and that mindset ourselves? So I find this transformation phase has really helped us. This transformation journey has really helped us build that confidence as an organization and built up our engineering excellence.
Absolutely. No, I'm certainly excited for what's in store for us for the future. And speaking of open source, like you said, right? Like a few years ago, when we talked about open source and contribution, that was kind of a joke. Like, how can a bank go and contribute for open source? And we started realizing there are multiple US banks such as JP Morgan and so on and so forth, who have actually started to contribute open source, and they've become successful as a result. And they're able to influence the overall roadmap of how those open source is basically progressing. So I'm glad that we're actually in that phase where, as a bank, we've started to contribute to the open source projects as well.
And I'll add, our execs love it. There's good business value with it, but our technologists love it as well. They love being part of it. They love building their portfolio. They love being part of this greater community. I think we're one of the first Canadian banks right now to be a CNCF partner.
Absolutely.
Which we're really proud of.
Awesome. Oh, some great transformation happening there. And coming to the data and AI, which is what your current portfolio is, yeah. We talk a lot about leveraging our 19+ million clients, the data that they offer and more personalized recommendations, which is kind of like shifting left in a way. However, banking is one of those heavily regulated industry, and we all know that, right? Now, how can you design a scalable, secure, and interoperable data platform that not just accelerates your AI and data analytics capability across the enterprise, but also ensures, going back to your 3 Cs, the compliance that you mentioned, how do we ensure that compliance is also being met with the evolving change in the global data regulations?
Yeah, this is the journey that we're on right now, is to bring those data capabilities to the organizations so that we can, not just the data, but AI as well. How do we make, just like we did in cloud, how do we bring those capabilities to the mainstream so everybody has access to AI, to build agents, to build chatbots, to do analytics on their data? One of the biggest complaints we received is from our data engineers. They said, Vin, cloud is great, but half my team are cloud engineers now to deploy this stuff and configure this stuff and use this stuff. How do we get to the business of data engineering? Because I don't want to have cloud engineers on staff. So our goal with our data platform, we call it Lumina. Our platform, the objective is to really bring those capabilities together and stitch them together. So we've got data movement capabilities. We've got data storage. We've got data processing capabilities. We've got AI frameworks and model hosting capabilities. How do we bring them together so that a data engineer or a business analyst or a BI reporter or a data scientist, how do we bring them together so that those personas can just onboard and use these things in a way that's easily stitched together, easily compatible? If I move something to if I use my data movement pipeline, that should land in a storage bucket that my processing engine, my notebooks have access to. And then those notebooks will transform the data, do our medallion architecture and move it into a state that we can report on it. And then how do I have my business intelligence products easily report on that data? That's really the objective. And underlying that is some of the compliance stuff. How do I make sure I have the data lineage? How do I make sure I have the data classification and my data catalog is up to date and reflects what's in the environment? That's really the journey we're on right now, and we think that that's going to be critical. I'm not sure if anybody's seen our CEO's $1 billion bet, but his $1 billion bet is he's made a bet to the world to say we're going to drive, by the end of 2027, we're going to drive $1 billion in AI value, right? So for us to do that, it's fundamental, it's critical that app teams can get to these capabilities, get to AI, and not spend months deploying infrastructure. So I want to be mindful of time.
Absolutely. No, this is great summary. Thank you for helping understand what that end-to-end view looks like and how we are approaching the data and AI problem statement within RBC as well. We've talked about a lot of these things, right? Like cloud, data, AI space, how we're going to stitch together as one single hybrid cloud platform, making it centralized and consistent across these different cloud service providers, if you will. What's next for us?
I think next for us is really integrating these capabilities, stitching them together, getting them, making sure that it's easy to use, everybody can access it, and then we're going to start working with teams to drive value from it, and hopefully just fine-tune the experience just like we have with cloud, so where it's in a state where everybody can just log in and start using it.
Awesome. Anyway, so thank you so much for your time, Vinh. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this conversation. Let's keep building, collaborating, and shaping the next generation of data platforms together. So with that, I'm going to open the floors for Q&A. Someone to the right?
Yep.
Hey, Vin, great presentation. One comment first. Thank you for focusing this on data and analytics. There's been a lot about AI buzzwords. I came here for the data and analytics, so the infrastructure and what you came up with and put on the screen is very valuable to me. So thanks again. When you talk about going back to on-premise and the hybrid approach, do you see that happening with the in-branch experience of your customers, or do they want online? How does that translate if you were to think of the business objective of RBC?
So do you mean the customers, or you mean the in-branch staff, how they're using?
Do customers want more data, more AI, more online banking, or are they losing trust and they want to go back to branch with somebody in person? Do they want to go literally back on-prem and do business back 10 years ago?
That's a great question. Well, fundamental to our AI strategy is really, we're primarily right now using it in the back office. So how do we provide better insights? How do we automate things on our back end? We're not quite in a position. I know I saw the other day a couple other banks were, and I think it was in Germany, but we're not quite ready to put AI directly in front of our customers yet. And I think maybe AI fatigue is maybe something that we might start seeing as consumers in various areas. So that's a great question, and I think it's not going to impact our customers. They're not going to see a lot of this, the bots and stuff at this point. Developer productivity is really an area we're focusing on as well.
Awesome. We have time for one last question. There's one up there.
Hi, my name is Harsh, and thank you for the great presentation. So my question is around doing this at scale at a bank like RBC. What was or probably what were the unexpected technical challenges in accomplishing this?
I think at a bank, there's the transformation experience is difficult. So moving this many people, moving people's mindset, changing people's mindset. And I think I had some experience before in startups and different companies, and you're used to moving so much faster. At a large bank, you just got to be patient. You got to move slowly. You got to collaborate with everybody. You can't force it on people. You got to really provide that value and motivate and excite them. And part of that is doing these talks. I think when you can get on a stage and show that we've done this at RBC and we've done this, I think it motivates some of our staff, our engineers, our teammates to say, hey, why don't we use that, right? That's I think the biggest challenge is building that consensus.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Vinh Tran, for making the time, and thank you everyone for listening to us, and thank you to the organizer for giving this wonderful opportunity. And until next time, take it easy.
Thank you so much.